Buckle up, deep divers, because today we're trekking back to the sands of Arrakis for Frank Herbert's Children of Dune.
That's right, the saga continues. Book 3. And this time we're dealing with the fallout of a hero's journey. Or maybe a hero's unraveling, you could say.
So we're picking up 12 years after Dune Messiah. Paul Atreides, the Muad'Dib, he's gone.
And Herbert really digs into what that kind of legacy, that godlike status, does to a society.
Right, like we're seeing the flip side of the coin now.
Exactly.
Instead of Paul, we've got his twin children, Leto II and Ghanima,
Mm.
front and center. And they've inherited his prescient abilities, which, let's be honest, is a lot for anyone to handle, let alone your average kids.
It's more than just a heavy load. It's like their minds are a meeting place for thousands of ancestors, all those memories, all those voices. Imagine the pressure cooker that must be.
They're practically drowning in ancestral memories.
Drowning is a good word for it. Powerful, sure, but also incredibly vulnerable to influence, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. One minute they're spouting ancient wisdom like seasoned philosophers, and the next they're, well, kids. Makes you wonder if anyone, even with all that power, can really escape their legacy.
And that's where Olia comes in, Paul's sister.
Right, she's got those ancestral memories too. But she's haunted by one ghost in particular, Baron Harkonnen, her dear old granddad.
Talk about family drama.
It's like having the villain of the last book whispering in your ear, fueling every insecurity.
Herbert isn't subtle about the dangers of unchecked ambition, especially when you've got that kind of power at your fingertips.
No kidding. And with Paul gone, it's like everyone's scrambling for a piece of the pie.
Okay.
The Fremen, House Carino, the Bene Gesserit, even this mysterious character called the Preacher pops up.
It's a whirlwind of political intrigue, betrayal, shifting alliances. You've got Winsisha, desperate to put her son on the throne, willing to step on anyone to get there.
And Stilgar, trying to hold the Fremen together, while the very ground is shifting under their feet. Everyone's having to choose a side.
And speaking of shifting ground, let's not forget about Arrakis itself. It's a planet in the midst of an ecological makeover.
Paul's dream of terraforming, right? Turning the desert green. But it's not all sunshine and roses, is it?
Not exactly. Herbert makes you think about the ripple effects, the unintended consequences. The sandworms are dying off, which, bad news for the spice trade, not to mention the entire ecosystem.
It's like a giant science experiment, and no one's quite sure what's going to happen next. And then there's Leto II, with his grand plan, the Golden Path. This isn't just about ruling Arrakis. This is about steering the future of humanity itself.
The Golden Path, that's a whole other conversation. It's a plan that makes you question everything. Free will, sacrifice, what it means to be human.
And the way Herbert describes Leto's transformation is, well, let's just say it's not your average coming-of-age story. This kid merges with sand trout, those creatures tied to the spice cycle, becomes something else.
It's a powerful image. Disturbing, but powerful. And it cuts right to the heart of what Herbert's exploring in Children of Dune. What are we willing to give up in the name of progress? In the name of survival?
So we've got all these factions circling this planet in flux, and these two teenagers with the weight of the universe on their shoulders. What happens next?
Well, some people see Leto and Ghanima as loose ends, obstacles.
Right, they're playing this high-stakes game, and not everyone's playing by the rules.
Remember that scene on Seleucus Secundus? Those Laza tigers, genetically engineered killing machines set loose on kids? Herbert doesn't pull any punches there.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
But it shows how far people are willing to go for power. And then there's the Bene Gesserit, masters of the long game.
They can't just eliminate Leto and Ghanima, not with their abilities. So what do? Send in Grandma.
Lady Jessica, back to the lion's den. It's a brilliant move by Herbert, really.
She's got to protect her grandchildren, but she's also bound to the Bene Gesserit. Talk about divided loyalties.
And you've got the Fremen caught in the middle of it all, their faith shaken, their unity fractured, plus this whole mystery surrounding the Preacher.
Is he Paul? Isn't he? It's a question that hangs over everything.
Herbert's really good at that, keeping us guessing. And while everyone else is vying for control, Leto's got that whole other plan in motion. The Golden Path.
He's not just playing checkers while everyone else is playing chess. He's playing a completely different game.
He sees the strings of fate, the traps laid out in the future. And he knows the only way to break free is to make a terrifying choice.
And that's where those sand trouts come in. That image of Leto surrendering himself to them, knowing what it means. It's unforgettable.
To the sacrifice on a scale that's almost impossible to comprehend. But Ghanima, She seems different.
She sees what happens to Elia, how power corrupts. Maybe that's her strength.
The ability to learn from others' mistakes, even when those mistakes are colossal.
Exactly. And back on Arrakis, the seeds of rebellion are taking root. People are drawn to Leto's message of change, even if it terrifies them.
It's like this quiet build-up to a storm, and you know it's going to be epic. It's the final showdown. All those threads we've been following, they finally come together.
Herbert doesn't disappoint. It's a collision of characters and ideologies.
And Elia, she's been dancing on a knife's edge this whole time.
Consumed by the Baron, blinded by her own ambition.
And I think, in a way, that's her downfall.
That's the thing about underestimating people.
Right. She underestimates Leto, underestimates Ghanima, underestimates how far they'll go.
She has no idea what's coming.
Leto's return to Arrakis. It still gives me chills just thinking about it. He's not the boy you left.
He's something else entirely.
And then Herbert throws that curveball. The preacher.
When it's revealed, oh man.
It's Paul.
Talk about a twist you don't see coming.
Right. I mean, we've had these hints, these whispers about Paul Atreides maybe still being out there. But to see him like this,
A shell of his former self.
it's heartbreaking. You expect this triumphant return, a hero coming to set things right.
But prescience takes its toll. Herbert makes that very clear.
It really does. And yet, even like this, Paul throws everything into chaos. Ellie is terrified of him.
Well, yeah, he represents everything she's tried to suppress.
The past, the guilt, the consequences.
That confrontation on the steps of her temple is masterful.
The tension is incredible. You've got the preacher with his followers, this groundswell of beliefs surrounding him.
And Elia clinging to power, but you can see the cracks starting to show.
And it's Leto who pushes her over the edge. Not with violence, but with truth.
He makes her see what she's become. Powerful, but at what cost?
It's a tragic end for her, really. But with Elia gone, the stage is set for Leto's transformation.
The God Emperor. Such an iconic figure in science fiction, this fusion of human and sandworm.
And he truly believes this is the only way, his golden path, the only way to save humanity from itself.
To break free from those cycles of violence and chaos.
But it comes at a cost, doesn't it? I mean, to take away choice, even in the name of survival.
It's a question that has haunted readers for decades.
Right. Is there such a thing as too much certainty?
Can we really call ourselves free if our path is predetermined? And Ghanima, she accepts this.
She sees the burden Leto carries, the weight of that choice he's made.
And Farad'n, even he finds his place in this new order, not as a ruler, but as a chronicler.
Preserving Leto's wisdom, ensuring it's passed on. It's a strange kind of peace that settles over Arrakis at the end of this book.
Uneasy, yeah, but a peace nonetheless.
But Herbert leaves us with that question, doesn't he? Is this a triumph or a tragedy? Have we escaped one cycle only to fall into another? Children of Dune doesn't give us easy answers.
It makes you think, makes you question, and that's the mark of a truly great story, isn't it?
It certainly is. This is one that stays with you long after you've turned the last page. And if you haven't already experienced the wild ride of Children of Dune, I highly recommend taking that deep dive. You won't regret it.